going to read a piece called Silence, and it is on the same topic that my book is about. So, it is raining this Sunday evening, and darkness surrounds the house. The bright light of the living room is not enough to get me started on preparing tomorrow's class. I feel unsettled. Maybe it is the upcoming Yom Kippur holiday. I know we should start explaining it to the children again to help them understand, but I feel disconnected from things Jewish. My heart is heavy. Anne is away, which makes it even harder. The three of us, Danny, Maya, and I, are quiet, each involved in our own activities, here in the living room, as if we weren't together. It reminds me of being back home, a child in Romania, surrounded by my parents' silence. And I do not wish to repeat the past. So I close my book, place it on the table by the newspaper, and take a deep breath, hoping to break the stillness, and trusting that this may actually be the right moment to bring this up again. Danny, Maya, did you know that your grandparents were in the concentration camps during the war? Maybe I spoke too quietly. Neither one of them seems to have heard me. I know that both my children recently studied the Holocaust in school. At the time, I even tried speaking to them about it. Danny's beautiful brown face, my 12-year-old son, is framed by the thick black hair, and his eyes are concentrating on his beating, carefully passing the needle through tiny, colorful crystal balls. Maya is lying down on the couch, holding the first volume of Harry Potter in her hands above her face. She follows the lines on the page with her tiny index finger, so she won't miss any detail of a book she's already read twice. I stand up, pull out a photo from the thick envelope I keep high on the bookshelf, and begin again. Look, I say, and show them one of the few pictures I have of my parents. In it, Father is wearing a dark suit and a tie and stands with his arms around Mother, who wears a pretty dress and holds a baby in her arms, bundled up in a white lacy blanket. My parents are smiling proudly, almost victoriously, showing the baby, probably a couple of months old, to the camera. Despite their deportation, Mother in Auschwitz and Father in Dachau, and losing their respective spouses and families, they're now together, a new unit, building a new family. And the child they're holding so proudly is their proof that the Nazis were not able to wipe them out completely. I retrieved this photo 15 years ago, after my uncle had called me with the news of my father's death. I took a risk. My spring break at Vasa had just started, and returned to Ceausescu's Romania to bury my father. It was the first time back in 20 years since my brother and I had escaped in 1969. I was afraid that the policia would retain me as a traitor, and throughout my stay I was aware that I was continually followed. In Father's silent apartment in Cluj, I found 30 or so photos and many letters from my brother Ferko and me. They were scattered on the unmade bed everywhere. It looked as if he had read them over many times in the evening before going to sleep. Mother had died long time before, shortly after we had left, and the place smelled of loneliness and old age. The photos and the letters were all I brought home with me. Not much to remember after a whole life, and my father's and my mother's. And of course, I brought my memories. Hearing my question, my son stops his beating for a second, looks at me, and takes the old picture in his hand. I can see on his face that he tries to understand how this middle-aged couple in the serrated black and white picture relates to him. Then he tries to please me. Is that you, the baby? Actually, I don't really know. It's probably my brother Ferko, I add after a moment of hesitation, looking at the picture. My parents still look young and thin, as if they had not been back from the concentration camp for long. By the time I was born, they must have put on more weight. Dani doesn't say anything, but by now Maya has put down her book and moved in. A tiny hand reaches over and takes the photo from Dani. Were they nice, your parents? Did they play with you? I don't remember my parents playing with me. In fact, I never saw them play. When they returned from the camps without their families, they tried to start life again. Did they play with you? Maya asks again. No, not really, I answer. They were very sad and depressed a lot of the time, especially Mother. She would just stay in the kitchen, cook, and cry a lot. She didn't speak much. There's a new silence in the room. Maya hands me back the picture and picks up the book. I put my parents' photo back into the envelope, wishing that I had a picture of myself and my children at my children's age, together with my parents. An image that would bridge this silence and bring me closer, even though our lives are so different. At the age, I was in the streets, completely unsupervised by my old parents who didn't have the energy to keep track of me. I was free to play and dream of escaping to the West. Then, at 18, my brother and I escaped, leaving our parents alone, just as they had been after they returned from the camps. Could my children possibly understand all this? Above me on the bookshelf stands the photo of my own grandparents, Hermina and Emmanuel, who also died in Auschwitz. It stands lonely on the highest shelf in a soft cherry wood frame. I never met my grandparents. Father and Mother never spoke to me about them or about their life before deportation. They never spoke about what happened in the camps, for that matter. Looking at my grandparents' photo, I realized that I cannot feel any familiar pulse in my heart, no matter how much I search for myself in their eyes. I wonder if that is what Dani and Maya feel about my parents, whom they never met, or about me. I wonder if my own history will disappear into the void, into silence, like that of my own parents. Yom Kippur, a time for restoring all relationships, for making apologies and offering forgiveness, is coming around again. Will anything change this time? It is getting late. I place the picture back into the envelope and then on its place in the bookshelf. It is still raining.